Hey everyone, it's Marc de Bruin from Simplifying Life. Back home after 2 weeks away on site doing mental health work. In my 2 weeks in speaking with clients and with colleagues and other third parties, a topic came up more than once that I think is sort of worthwhile discussing today, and that's how do you actually build good relationships with people, and how do you communicate with people in a way that they start to like you, or at least want to work with you or be with you, or at least think you're a good human being. Many good books written about that. I've always reminded myself of 2 rules that I've let a lot of clients in counseling know, and the 2 rules are super simple. So I'm going to give you these little 2 secret rules. Well, they're actually not very secret at all, but if you apply these rules consistently, and many others, but these ones are the simple ones, that if you apply these consistently, you will pretty much get along with virtually everybody, or at least you will not make too many enemies. So rule number 1 is listen more than you talk. It sounds really simple, but listen more than you talk. And on top of that one, ask more questions than you speak. So that's actually 2 parts to the same rule. So that's rule number 1. So listen more than you talk and ask more questions than you speak or than you make statements. Now, what do I mean with that? If you read all the classics, and I'll point one to the camera shortly, everyone enjoys talking about themselves. That seems to be human nature. We all talk about ourselves because we like the I word, I, me, my. Most people just enjoy talking about themselves. But for the listener, that's not always the most interesting to listen to, because guess what? They also like to talk about themselves. So if you constantly keep the conversation going and take lead in that conversation, talking about what it is that you are and who you are and what you do and what's happened to you and how you reacted to that, then you probably run a very good risk that your conversation partner will switch off. Now, it's not always that black and white, but there's a fair chance. Maybe they're polite enough to keep listening to you until you're done, but there's a fair chance that they'll start to switch off emotionally, mentally, because they want to talk about themselves and share their point of view. But if you're not letting them, then they will pretty much lose interest in the discussion with you. So one of the things I learned pretty early in the piece, I was fairly young I think already, is like listen more than you talk and ask questions more than you make statements or than you speak. So how do you do that stuff? That's still rule number 1. How do you do it? Listen more than you talk is like, well, that's easy. Let the other one talk. And that sounds counterintuitive because we all want to talk ourselves and share our side of the story. Just listen. Let them talk. And if you have a conversation partner that is not very talkative and might not know what to say and is a bit awkward in talking themselves, well, that's where that second rule, or the second part of that rule, come in. Ask questions. And this is what we learn in counseling, obviously, asking questions. And the simple questions are all along these lines: who, what, where, why, how, and when. When as well. So who, what, where, why, how, and when. If you ask those questions, open type questions, you can keep the conversation going for hours, as long as you show interest, are curious enough to listen to what these people have got to say. And by the end of the conversation, this is a slight dramatization of it, but at the end of a conversation, you will have practically said nothing. You will just have asked questions, and your conversation partner will most likely think that you are the most wonderful person that they've spoken to today. Why? Because you gave them a chance to talk while you were with curiosity asking questions. It sounds really weird, but it works that way. So listen more than you talk, ask questions more than you speak, and the questions are all along the lines of who, what, where, why, when, how. Do that, and I can assure you that you'll be a great conversation partner, at least in the other person's eyes, and that can help you in both personal and professional settings. The second rule along these lines is never ever criticize anything or anyone, or not criticizing, that's it. I was going to say don't be bagging people or bagging situations or bagging roles or bagging anything, because you just never know who or what your conversation partner is, and you might actually hit a sensitive point. I had a conversation with someone recently, and I do a lot of counseling for EAP organizations, employee assistance program organizations. Now, sometimes people will not get the service that they want from EAP organizations, and that's in any organization. This person was actually quite negative about EAP organizations in general, as if the counselors and psychologists and social workers working for EAP organizations are not good at their craft. Now, this person don't know, can't remember, that I actually do a lot of work for EAP organizations, and I take pride in my work working for EAP organizations. I actually really enjoy it and try and do my best, as I always do my best, whether it's one-on-one in my private practice or for EAP organizations. So when a person starts saying that she will never or he will never send people to EAP organizations because there's not a lot of good counselors and psychologists and social workers working there, in a sense you're criticizing my work as well. Now, I'm self-reflective enough to not take that too personally, but you just never know. In business, and this is something I learned in business, is like never bag the competition. Just tell them where you are better in what you're doing, and that's cool. But don't say it as in, well, they're worse because. It's like, no, we're just slightly better because this is what we can do and this is how we can help you. The same goes in personal conversations with people. If you want to make a comparison, just show where you are different, where you can make a difference to someone, but never ever bag the competition or another person for who they are, what they do, or just in general without knowing who your conversation partner is, because it just could go wrong pretty quick. So 2 simple rules, and I'll expand on this if you want in other videos, but 2 really simple rules to make people like you, to make people want to work with you, to actually make more friends, to build your network, which is very important because we're all social animals. Always listen more than you talk, and just that's number 1. And never criticize the competition or never criticize or bag someone else. So listen more than you speak and ask questions more than you talk, make statements, and never criticize anyone else, because you just never know who you got in front of you. If you apply those 2 rules, I promise you things will get better. And in so many situations that's already worked. Now, I said I'll show you a book. If you want to read a classic, get this one. Hey, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I'm not sure if you're seeing it in mirror image, but this is Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Classic book, but so good when it comes to how to deal with people. Read it. Read any modern version of it, but something along those lines, how to win friends and influence people. You will be able to do that, and people will like you because you're just a likable person if you ask a lot of questions, because people are interested in talking about themselves. So that's the point. Hope that was useful. If you got questions, feel free to ask. I'm happy to talk about communication strategies. I think over the years I've developed a few that seem to work. Not that I'm so good, but I've just tested their effectiveness and they seem to work. So happy to discuss those, and otherwise have a great day and speak soon.